Hi. You're getting fully stripped down Katya right now, I wanted to come on and say a couple things because, as people know and people have been commenting, I have been gone for a pretty long time, and I believe that people deserved an explanation as to why. So there's been a lot of really big life updates for me this past year. My boyfriend and I moved in together, and, that took a lot. Just moving and redesigning and combining lives is a difficult thing. And then I got actually my dream job. I'm head of production at a studio called Fable Studio, and we have a program that just went public called Showrunner AI. So that was a very difficult lift and a very exciting thing to be a part of. But the biggest reason that I have been gone is not as much fun. The truth is I've been extremely sick. Being sick can be all-encompassing, and this has been. After 24 doctor's appointments in 3 months, we finally know what is wrong, which is both relieving because just having answers is a relief. But it's also frustrating because the answers I got, there's not really the simplest solution for it. So it's just been a lot. I can't promise that I'm going to start uploading perfectly now because I'm still not fully in the clear. And I won't really know my energy reserves until I'm sort of further into treatment. But I do have a couple episodes that I filmed a couple months ago, and I'm editing them all now, so at least there'll be some episodes coming out soon. Picture this. You just started a new full-time job. You're moving in with your boyfriend. You have 2 podcasts that you run. You're an indie producer that's also working on countless other projects. You're writing a book. And you're struggling with some health issues. How do you manage all of that? How do you know what your days should look like? Well, for me, I use ChatGPT, and I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing.
Real intelligence leading the way. AI insights, it's what you crave. Real intelligence, turn up the light. Stay informed all through the night.
This is Real Intelligence, the podcast where we talk about AI in the film industry and all of the new tech that's coming out. I'm Katya Alexander. For those of you who don't know me, I've been an indie producer for 10 years. I sold my first film to a Bamarama. I've had a film win South by Southwest that was later sold to IFC and was a trending film on Hulu. I worked in the Las Vegas Sphere, which was a boot camp between the intersection of technology and entertainment, and I'm the new head of production at Fable Studios. I did want to say sorry to my followers for being gone for so long. I wanted to give full disclosure that I'm having some health issues right now, and I've had to reprioritize my life a little bit as I'm just getting through this little bit of a hump. And, it does segue perfectly into this episode, and it was why I wanted to make this episode, because one of the biggest tools in my life to actually stay productive and be able to work through this sickness is my use of ChatGPT. And I wanted to get this information out there so if anybody else is struggling and, doesn't have a personal assistant, doesn't have all this help, this tool has really changed my life. Also wanted to thank everybody for getting me to 6,000 followers. It's crazy. I started this platform and it was just my parents watching and my boyfriend's parents watching, and now I have 6,000 followers and counting, and thousands of views, and it's so cool. So thank you so much. I don't know how to fully express how much this means to me, but I'm very, very grateful. Thank you. So let's get into it. ChatGPT, how do I use it? I want to first start with writing prompts for ChatGPT. Having the perfect prompt is what gets you that great final product that you might need. And lately, I have been using ChatGPT for a lot of different things, mostly organizational within my life, and I wanted to run people through how I've been doing that. So first, how do I get the perfect prompt for exactly what I'm looking for? It's very simple. I have ChatGPT write all of my prompts for me. And it's honestly been working great. Basically, The way I start is I start writing the prompt how I would have written the prompt. I try to include as much information as I possibly can include. I don't care about the order in which the information is being given, to be honest. I just give it all the information, give it everything it could possibly know, give it the task I am trying to have it fulfill. Then I put that whole prompt into quotations and I add at the beginning the following sentences. Act as the top prompt engineer. Review the following prompt. Optimize it to make it better and ask any clarifying questions you need before proceeding. Almost always it will ask between 2 and 5 questions depending on what you're trying to do. And it's so interesting depending on the initial prompt that you wrote. But it's very interesting because so many of the questions are things that I'm like, oh yeah, that would be extremely helpful for ChatGPT to know to, answer my question for me. And also something that I would have never thought to include myself. Let me give you some examples. I gave ChatGPT the following prompt. I'm trying to schedule out my weekend this weekend. I have a lot to do. Here are my unmovable things. I have a meeting at 11 a.m. and until 1 p.m. Then I will be at the coffee shop from 1 to 1:30, and then I have another meeting from 1:30 to 3:30. I will then need 15 minutes to get home. On top of that, I'm planning a wine tasting or something on Sunday with my friends, but we do not have a time yet. I'm open to coming up with times with you. Here's what I need. I need to do all of my homework. I listed out the assignments though. I need to edit chapters 6 and 7 of my book. I need to finish chapter 8 of my book, and I need to write chapter 9 of my book. Can you come up with a plan with me? I'm willing to work from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Except for Saturday, I'm willing to work as late as 10 p.m. These are some of the questions it asked me in return. Which tasks are the highest priority? How tired are you feeling going into this weekend? Which was extremely important for me because one of the major symptoms of the sickness I'm going through is that I have pretty extreme fatigue and exhaustion, and I have a really hard time getting through my day right now. Do you want the wine tasting to be early, mid, or late Saturday? Do you prefer to front load the hardest work on Saturday morning or spread it out more evenly? Is Sunday a full work day except for the wine, or is it only a light work day? Any hard stop time you want on Sunday if you have no official wine tasting time yet? How do you usually feel after meetings, energized or drained? I answered all those questions and it gave me back the perfect prompt that I then opened a new chat of ChatGPT, put that prompt in, and it gave me the perfect schedule to accomplish everything that weekend. So, rule number 1, don't write your own prompts. ChatGPT is great for everything, including writing its prompts for itself. How have I been using ChatGPT in my life? Here are some following ways that have been able to support me through this very difficult time in my life. There was a period of time where I was moving in with my boyfriend, which involved an interior designer painting the entire house, and at one point our bedroom floor collapsed, so we had to get that fixed. It involved selling a bunch of the stuff that we weren't going to use anymore. I mean, it involved a lot of work. I also had just started my new job, which I love, as the head of production at Fable Studios. I needed to fully understand what that role was going to look like for me and look like in the day-to-day. I am writing a book this year, and I'm actually taking some college courses to help me write the book. Basically having a writer's group that reads my work and I read their work and we give each other feedback. But one of the tough things about that is I then have due dates for my chapters, as well as I need to read all my classmates' work and give them feedback. I'm still indie producing all of these other projects, and I have this podcast. So objectively, there was a lot on my plate, and I would go into every single week being like, how the hell am I gonna do this? How am I gonna actually get through this to-do list as a human being? So let's break down each little thing one by one, because I both use ChatGPT to help me with these tasks and use ChatGPT to help me plan these tasks. So let's go all the way back to when my boyfriend and I first hired our interior designer. She sent us these awesome mock-ups of what the house was going to look like and what we, were going to do, including painting the walls and adding wallpaper and doing all this little detail work. I personally was having a really hard time visualizing what the house was going to look like with the options that she gave us. So I used ChatGPT to help me fully understand what the house was going to look like. I gave ChatGPT pictures of the house. I gave it the mock-up pictures that my interior designer had made, and any other little bit of information I could possibly give it. Did the exact same thing of having ChatGPT write its own prompt for me. And it was able to make me these photorealistic images of my house as if I had already done all of the work the interior designer was having us do. And I was able to pretty much see pictures of my finished house before we had even started anything. And it allowed me to actually confirm the things that I wanted and the things I didn't want. Next thing I used ChatGPT for was I just kind of threw all the information at it of we have to paint, we have to do this, we have to do that, we're trying to get in this furniture, we're trying to what should I get rid of, what should I keep? And ChatGPT helped me figure out what bookshelves worked with her design, what things I already owned that worked with her ideas, so that I didn't have to buy a bunch of furniture. I could just use what I already had. And it helped me come up with to-do lists for the house, like painting each wall and figuring out the windowsills and hanging up pictures. My boyfriend also used ChatGPT to help us figure out what piece of art should go into what room of our house. He took a picture of every single piece of art that we owned and a picture of each room of the house, put it all up in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave us a PDF document that was a list of where each picture should go in the house. My boyfriend and I also moved in over the course of 6 weeks because we were only working on it in the weekends from our jobs. So we had to figure that stuff out. Basically, when we were going to paint the house, when we were going to have movers come and move in his large furniture, a lot of different moving parts. When it came to painting the house, we had to paint the office, the bedroom, the hallway, the dining room, the kitchen, the living room. We ended up not painting the bathroom. It was a lot of painting, and we only really had 3 days to do it because we just had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And ChatGPT helped me come up with a painting schedule so that we could actually finish painting the house in one weekend with just the two of us. Moral of the story, ChatGPT completely helped me organize my entire move and made communicating with my boyfriend very easy because ChatGPT did a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So now let's talk about my to-do list during that time. There were so many things I had to do to prep my house for my boyfriend to move in. Example, I had to empty closets for him and drawers for him. I also at the same time coincidentally was redesigning my entire office at that time. So I had to, finish setting up the whole office so that we could essentially walk into the room. And I wanted to move furniture I wasn't going to keep down into the garage so that I could sell it. I also had to sell that furniture. And that was just for the move. That's outside of my full-time job. That's outside of all of the indie projects I'm producing. For a couple of weeks in a row, every single time I looked at my to-do list for that week, I just would want to scream. What I will say, in giving context to all of this, I'm very good at coming up with detailed to-do lists in the sense of I'm good at being instead of putting clean the office on a to-do list, I do break down the tasks into much smaller tasks of organize things I'm going to keep and get rid of, put things back on bookshelves, vacuum the space, figure out what I'm going to sell and what I'm going to donate, So I do want to give the context of I am good at making to-do lists, but I am sure that if you're not good at that, if you were to say clean office, ChatGPT could help you find a way more detailed to-do list. So in this period of extreme stress, I started every single week the same way. Sunday night, I would tell ChatGPT when all of my meetings were and all the other tasks I had to do. I told it how I worked best, that, I like to complete a task before moving on to the next one. I'm much better at that than moving from task to task to task. And I gave it my parameters of the amount I was willing to work. Then I had it rewrite my prompt for me, of course. And every single week, it would come up with a perfect schedule. I had never been more productive in my entire life than following the schedule that ChatGPT put out for me. And the schedule included taking my dog for a walk and going to the gym and taking care of myself. And it even included wind down periods, breaks, lunches, all that type of stuff, as well as getting my to-do list done. Each day, at the end of the day, I would tell ChatGPT, these are all the tasks I finished today. These are all the tasks I added and finished. These are all the tasks I added and did not finish. Help me figure out the rest of my week from there. And it would constantly be editing my week as I was going and as I was accomplishing things. And every single day it would check in on my energy levels about what I should do the following day, depending on how tired I was in that moment. Another thing I have ChatGPT do for me sometimes is rewrite my emails, especially if they're emotionally charged ones. There were a couple of issues that popped up throughout the past month that I had to be a little confrontational to people to solve, but I, A, am not a confrontational person, and B, even with that being said, when I'm really mad, I can sometimes speak emotionally instead of logically. So what I would often do is I would just write my extremely emotional and frustrated email into ChatGPT with the command of, can you make this extremely pleasant, extremely teamwork? Like, I just want to work together. I just want to get this solved. I'm not blaming you. This is just a thing that happened. And rewrite the email in that way. And let me tell you, my emails were super nice, super cordial. Something that has been really nice for me about ChatGPT is it's helped me a lot with decision fatigue. There's so many things that I don't really want to make a decision on, and it's just not that important. And being able to put the information into ChatGPT and have it make that decision for me is really easy. So a small example, I host a dinner every 6 weeks with a bunch of my friends, and I have been having, some health stuff, and usually I cook for like a whole day, sometimes 2 days for these dinners, and I knew that I could not do that this time. I was too exhausted. So I thought about canceling the dinner. I really didn't want to, though, because it's not really about the food, it's about my friends, and also it was the housewarming for my boyfriend and I didn't want to cancel our whole housewarming thing just because I wasn't feeling well. So I gave ChatGPT all that information and was like, what do I do? And it was so creative. It talked about how I could probably just get it catered. I didn't need to do any cooking. So then I followed up with, well, okay, but I don't have a ton of money to spend on these. I can't afford a caterer, especially because it was really last minute. We're talking about planning Sunday's dinner Saturday afternoon. And that's when ChatGPT gave me all these options of going to Trader Joe's and getting a bunch of pre-made food, going to Costco, getting a bunch of pre-made food. It gave me these extremely cost-effective ways that I could essentially cater this dinner for 25 people without breaking the bank. We ended up going to Costco, getting a bunch of stuff, and then reheating it right before the dinner. Was one of the best dinners I've had with family dinners, partly even just because I could be social. I wasn't stuck in the kitchen cooking the whole time. Like, I could be out with my friends and actually talking to them, but B, like, the food was really good, and it didn't end up breaking the bank. It was just as expensive as any other family dinner in the past. Point being, ChatGPT is this massive tool that can essentially be your personal assistant when you can't afford yet to have your own personal assistant. And it has made my life so much easier, and it's allowed me to keep my mind on the important stuff, especially now when I don't have the energy to handle everything all at once all the time. There's a couple of really, really good prompts that I also use outside of just having ChatGPT write all my prompts for me, and I wanted to read a couple for you. And I'll also include all of these prompts in the description below. Act as a top industry, choosing which industry, professional, analyze problem, situation, and give me a solution using expert level strategies. Another option, break down how successful person or company achieved specific goal. Identify the key steps I can apply to my own situation. Find the most recent and credible sources on topic and summarize the key insights for me. And one of my favorites, create a 30-day structured learning plan to master skill, including exercises and milestone goals. I've heard people call ChatGPT some black box that they just throw information at and you get information back, and that information can be useful but usually isn't. And usually when someone is saying this to me, the thing that I'm hearing is that they don't know how to use ChatGPT and they don't know its best uses. Once you figure out how to use it, it stops being this black box of information and starts becoming this tool that can really help you in your daily life. I know this is a little bit of a departure from film. I wanted to make an episode about this because ChatGPT has been essentially single-handedly keeping me afloat. Let me know in the comments below any other uses you use ChatGPT for, or any other prompts that you might want to share with people. Remember that commenting, liking, subscribing helps the channel grow and it helps get more eyes. So thank you so much for following along and enjoying this channel. I'm Katya Alexander, and this is Real Intelligence.